Hi, Shannon. How are you today?
Hi, good. How are you?
Good. I am excited to meet you in person because I've heard so many fabulous things about you from Katie.
Oh, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Katie the connector, right? As we know her.
We love Katie. She is a jack of all trades.
That is true. By the way, we can never just call her a celebrity chef because it just like sells it too short.
Yeah.
But anyways, enough about her because we're not here to talk about Katie today.
You're welcome
So
for the plug.
exactly. So Shannon Nuques is here today to talk to us about a couple of things. We're lucky enough that we're with a double founder, not just one founding company, but two founding companies. She is the founder of the co-founder of GLAMGLOW, which if you don't know what brand that is, then you've been living underneath a rock because it is an amazing brand and she will tell us all about that. But secondly, she just recently founded, after the sale of her company GLAMGLOW, she founded Gracyn Sky. And Gracyn Sky is also like it's a different category. So this is what's cool is she's entering into a new market and going into the children's apparel area. So you go from beauty to children's apparel, you know you have a risk taker here. So that's amazing. So I want
That's
to
someone
welcome.
that's really crazy.
Well, you know what? I think all entrepreneurs have a little crazy inside them.
That's right.
Exactly. But anyways, I want to always start with people hearing a little bit about your background. And before we got on this call, obviously we heard about the different varying degrees. I mean, you went from law and legal, the legal field, into beauty with kind of blinders on, which is a beautiful place to be. So why don't we back up and talk a little bit about your background?
Yeah, so was never, as we talked about, I was never an entrepreneur. And if you would have asked me this, in my early 20s, if I'd be here today, I would have thought you were absolutely crazy. But that's kind of one of the things that, we talked about. I think sometimes you have to be pushed into certain things and then you really find who you truly are meant to be. But I was in the legal field from, early on. I started in as a receptionist in law offices, moved my way up to legal assistant, thought I wanted to be a lawyer, was going to go to law school, and then decided after working in law offices that I really didn't want to
Like,
be a
hell
lawyer.
no.
Hell no. I was comfortable in that space. So I ended up going to paralegal school, becoming a paralegal, and that sort of started my legal career, and moved to various big firms all throughout the Los Angeles area, and had done that for, close to 20 years. And GLAMGLOW came about, so interesting, never intending to have a business. My co-founder and I lived up in the Hollywood Hills, and we knew a lot of people in the entertainment industry, actors, just various makeup artists and things, just from being at parties. And we happened to be at a party up in the Hollywood Hills. And there was a group of people, there was a well-known A-list actor there as well. And the conversation came up just about skincare, and this particular actor, who was a male. So it's interesting that this started from actually a man,
Mhm.
said, I'm getting older, I'm touring a lot, I'm doing a lot of movies overseas, I stay up late, my skin is really suffering. Is there anything anybody knows that really can get my skin instantly ready for camera? And we're like, well, what does that mean exactly?
Yeah.
And I wasn't into beauty at all. I was like a Cetaphil girl, from Rite Aid, like, just not into beauty, barely wore any
You're a
makeup.
natural beauty.
Thank you. But, so I wasn't really like into the skincare and beauty space. But really what he said he was looking for was, I want something that I can put on, and when I take it off, it looks like I just had a facial. My
Mhm.
skin is maybe softer,
Glowing.
maybe brighter, glowing, all of these things. So, everybody was talking, and everybody said, well, I use XYZ. But of course, at that time, this was like in 2008, you really had to use multitudes of products. In 30 days, you see 20% difference in your skin, all of this
Yes.
crap. And I personally didn't know anything, but my mom worked for Chanel at Nordstrom, and I thought, oh, Chanel has to have something for him. And my co-founder, he knew a lot of doctors and estheticians. He was a consultant for various spas, not from a product side, but from a business side. So he knew a lot of doctors and estheticians. So we said, you know what? there's got to be something out there. We'll see if we can get it for you. We go on about the party. We leave. I go ask my mom. She tells me the same thing. Oh, use this, and this. And,
Yes.
after all this time. Right. So I said, nope, that's not what he was looking for. Doctors and estheticians said, yeah, we have these great peels and all of these things, but you have to come in. So that wasn't, that didn't check the box. We started looking at retailers online, and there were no products at the time that really talked about instant results, but also multitude of things. So we were trying to find something that would smooth your skin, brighten, give you a glow, but worked quickly. It was multifunctional, but then you would also have results over time. So coming from a research, paralegal background, but there's got to be a way, to make something. But again, not intending to have a business, or not really understanding why, we're even kind of thinking about this. Like, who cares? We're like,
Clearly, but clearly the word that comes up for me is curiosity. Like you're like somebody who likes, clearly why actually in the legal field, right? You unturn stones and you basically figure out like the loophole. What is the answer? Very cool.
Yeah. So started researching online ingredients, putting down, okay, so for exfoliation, what are these ingredients, and looked up various things and read about them. And we're like, okay, that one sounds good. Okay, put it down. Brightening, glow, all of these things. And we kind of came up with this kind of concept of ingredients that really were interesting to us. And we thought, well, now what are we going to do with it? Because it's not honey, banana, and avocado, like you're not putting it in your, food processor and slapping it on your face. They're definitely a little bit more intricate ingredients. So, Los Angeles is full of amazing
labs,
cosmetic laboratories. Yeah. And so started calling, found a bunch of them, started calling, and I'm sure I sounded like a complete idiot, not knowing anything about the beauty space. I don't even know if I knew what I was talking about. But, most of them said, we can't help you, or it's going to cost you $50,000 to make your original formula. And then you have to produce a minimum of, whatever, 5,000 units. And we're like, no, we just want to make this little thing for a friend, but he's kind of a big actor, but we didn't like say his name. We're like, we don't want him to think like we can't do it. So
that's so funny.
Nobody cared. They're like, pay us, or, we're not.
Pay us or leave.
Yeah. And yes, exactly. So
you got out your food processor?
I got out the food processor, the Vitamix. No, but we ended up actually coming across another lab down near San Diego, and had this beautiful conversation with this woman who happened to be the owner. And we explained to her what we were trying to do. She ended up telling us her life story, that she was a massage therapist and she created her own oils, and then, moved and ended up getting this lab. And anyway, so she ended up having this lab, very small boutique lab. And she says, look, I don't know if I can help you. These original developments, they cost several $1,000s. Basically the same thing everybody else was saying. She says, but I feel a connection with you both. There's something in our conversation that I just feel a connection. So if you're willing to
very personable.
Oh, thank you.
Sure. I mean, well, you're easy to talk to, and you're humble, know.
Thank you.
It's true.
Thank you.
I mean, honestly, like if you're able to develop a connection with somebody, then they trust you, right? And
yeah, no, absolutely.
Are willing to help. So
yeah. So she said, if you're willing to come take the drive down here, I'm happy to sit down with you. I don't know if I can help you, but let's chat in person. So we said, okay. So called in sick from work, and we drove down, and I don't know, it was like a Tuesday, or it was literally like the middle of the week. I went down there, sat with her. She had her chemist there, her, just different people from the lab. We had our whole list of all the things we had looked up, and we just started, having this conversation. And she basically said, kind of the same thing, that, it was going to cost money, but she says, maybe there's something we can do. And my co-founder is a pretty good talker. And he said, look, you're already paying for this building. You're already paying for all of these people that work here. You have tons of these materials already on your shelves. This was nothing like that wasn't developed before. I mean, these were common ingredients.
Yes.
So, isn't there a way that maybe you could help us and just maybe charge us for like the costs, your basic costs? And, so after being there for a little while, she ended up agreeing to do it. And we ended up making our very first batch of this formula for $80 is all she charged.
Wow. Oh my gosh. That's so crazy.
$80.
You're
But it was
so
interesting.
lucky. Because this was
Very,
just,
very lucky.
we're not talking about, I mean, GLAMGLOW, you just sold, right? So you had it for 4 years or how many years?
So we launched for retail in July of 2011. We launched, our very first retailer was Neiman Marcus. We launched in all of their stores. And then we sold to Estee Lauder companies. The sale closed in January of 2015. So
Wow.
it's
So it
like
was
3.5
quick.
years. It was
But
very
like
quick.
even back then, $80 was like nothing.
No, I mean, it was nothing. It was, I mean, and especially with all the other labs we spoke to, it was going to cost thousands and thousands of dollars. But she liked us, and we kind of challenged them, and one of the things that we really challenged them on was we saw a common ingredient in a lot of skincare, and one was green tea, a green tea extract. And so, of course, not knowing anything, we didn't know what extract meant, and the chemist sort of explained to us, but he said molecules can break down over time. Maybe it's not as potent. So we were like, we don't like the sound of that, and we actually challenged them to use the real green tea leaf, not knowing why. So I think she saw that we were like giving them like a little bit of a challenge, not knowing anything. And we kind of pushed them to do this, and they had never done it before because of mold and bacteria and all these things that can happen with like a real leaf or something in a product. And they ended up doing it. And it turns out that we stumbled across something that we ended up patenting, which was using real green tea leaf. And it actually was steeping in the product like a cup of tea.
Oh, wow. That's so cool.
Becoming very potent over time. So it was something that was very different for the brand.
And now I'm learning the secret ingredient.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so we went from July of 2011, zero. And when we ended up selling to Estee Lauder, sales were $40 million. We only had 5 products, literally just 5 products. We were in over 6,000 stores globally.
Wow.
We had no loans, no debt, no investors. We did it all on our own. We had a very small team of about 10 people, including us. And we learned everything along the way, how to partner with retailers, how to ship, how to deal with issues,
Yes.
So yeah, it was a very crazy.
Quite a ride, I'm sure. So was it, looking back on that, because the journey was actually rather quick, right? And you're learning as you go. So it's a bit of a whirlwind. When you look back on that, is that why you decided to recreate another brand? Like almost like a cortisol junkie, like an addict that needs more?
No, it's really funny. So we sold, and I knew with GLAMGLOW, I could do every single person's job. Every detail you could ask me, I knew everything from down to the penny of our cost of goods. I mean,
That's good.
Just everything. It was, I was.
That's important. A lot of founders don't know that. Yeah.
22 hours a day. I mean, I was working, and globally, because we had so many countries, we were in over 80 countries, but sold the company. And it's so funny. And the reason why we sold was, we didn't come from this industry. We had never built a company like this. I was never an entrepreneur. My co-founder was a little bit more of an entrepreneur. He had some other businesses, but nothing like this, or even to this extent.
Great, yeah.
But one of the things I learned quickly was I know what I know, and I know what I'm really good at. And I kind of found my place, but I also knew what I wasn't good at. And we were on this crazy trajectory of just going up, 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 winning every award. And the sales were crazy. And just everything was, we were beating all the big boys and the Lauders and the L'Oreals of the world and the Shiseidos. But at some point, you make one wrong move and you go like this, right? And we worked so hard, and the brand was so loved, and we built this amazing cult following that people were just like addicted to these products.
And the packaging was really good. The marketing was spot on.
Yeah. And we did all of that ourselves. We had nobody helping us. We did it all ourselves. But it was like, we just knew we needed help, and we didn't know what that help looked like, whether we brought in an investor, whether we sold a part of the company, the whole company. So we went on a journey of, just meeting with private equity and the big strategic companies. And we said we would know the deal when it came to us. And we met with like 50 people and different companies, and ended up partnering with Estee Lauder. and sold 100% of the company. I stayed on as founder and kind of creative director. I'm still, part and involved in the brand today. But one of the questions you always get asked, or from what I understand from other founders when they have a sale, what are you going to do next? It's sort of like that an immediate question. And I always said, I don't know. I'm happy. I have a daughter who's now 13. Now I can actually be present for her because, I'm not focused on this.
It's so difficult. Yeah.
More difficult. I had gotten divorced, and then I was since in a new relationship, getting married, had a new baby. So my focus really was kind of this, just figuring myself out and enjoying my life.
Aligning with yourself and being versus
Yeah,
doing, like actually
right.
learning who you are, being
Exactly.
your business.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And taking that time, and I said to several people, I said, you know what, I will never do anything in the not never, but because you never know. But my idea in my head was I would never go back into the beauty space. One, because I made a huge mark in the beauty space. I, did something that other people hadn't been able to do. And I'm very proud, grateful, and humbled by what I was able to achieve and really change the beauty space in certain ways. So I don't need to go and recreate that, but I will know what that next thing is when it comes to me. So my husband Luciano and we had just welcomed our daughter Sienna in November of 2019. And, you're back. I had an 11-year-old at the time, and now I have a newborn, and you're back in this baby
different space. Yes.
Yeah. And you're back in this baby space that I hadn't been in for a long time. And, you have 3 beautiful daughters, the joy that babies.
Totally. There's nothing like having a baby like that time, right? Or getting that time back. Yeah.
And just, everything is so cute and little, and they're so innocent and all of these things. So, I felt this amazing joy that I, hadn't experienced since 11 years prior. And then all of this, I started finding new things that I liked for her, new clothing, new brands that were out that I didn't have before.
Yeah, it's like so much changes.
So much change. And I started becoming very frustrated with some of the brands that I had fallen in love with, and prints or things would sell out quickly. You couldn't get them fast enough, whatever the situation was, or just there were prints that weren't really giving me that joy that I was feeling. And I was driving in the car one day and I was like, I can do this. Like, this is what I'm meant to do. I think I can make baby clothes. And I spoke to my husband. I said, what do you think about this? And he's like, oh my God, this would be amazing. We could totally do this. And I had this idea to make it unique and different and partner with artists, that actually paint actual paintings and take their paintings and put them on the clothes and showcase artists and give them a new canvas on which to create and showcase their art. And just do it a little bit different. And I have a dear friend of mine who was after we sold the company, he came to GLAMGLOW as also a creative director. His name is Donald Robertson. He's a huge artist. He's all over Instagram. He's amazing. And he was the first artist I thought about because his prints are so fun and playful, and he gets me. We worked side by side for 6 years. And I just called him, and he was like, duh, I'm in, whatever you want. Done. And so then I just had this kind of like epiphany of like, this is my next calling. And then COVID hit. And this is a completely different space than, beauty. Yes, totally. I know nothing about apparel, how to manufacture, any fabrics, everything, regulations for kids, all of that.
Fire hazard, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Believe it or not, that was one of the things I looked into too when I had one of my 3 babies, was like, oh, maybe I should make, like, they don't have great swaddling blankets, kind of like what you're talking about. Right. Yeah. So it's a need. It definitely is a need out there, or layette sets, And
one of the things too was for us, GLAMGLOW was all made in the US. That was important for us. We manufactured, our factory was here in Los Angeles, really supporting the US economy for me was very important. My husband Luciano and we both grew up in Los Angeles or in the LA area. So again, we wanted, and we noticed the brands that we really were like loving were like designed, wherever, somewhere here, but made in overseas, China or what have you, which, you know, is not necessarily an issue, but we were like, you know what, we want to do this and we want to do it here. We want everything. We want the fabric, the zippers, the hang tag, you know, whatever it is,
Yeah.
all made.
You want to
specifically-
support. Yeah. You want
Yeah.
to support our economy. Yeah.
Right. And specifically LA, because we're here, you can walk into your factory.
Oh yeah.
You know, nobody's telling you something. You actually are like, oh, let me see. I got to see, you know, why is this?
You can, and you can touch and feel it. So much of the industry that you're in is about the feel and the touch.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And so, you know, then everything shut down. So, you know, we couldn't start calling, we couldn't start doing anything because there was like nobody to talk to. And we said to each other, you know what, here's kind of the designs that we're thinking of. These are sort of the ideas for the prints. Once we're back up and running and, you know, quarantine and we can get back to normal life.
One day.
If we're still, yeah, one day we're still not there, but you know, if we're still thinking about it and if we're still super passionate, this is that next journey and this is where we need to be. And, you know, it was about August, September-ish that LA kind of started opening and we started making phone calls and kind of just starting from scratch again and found fabric manufacturers and just everything here and went full steam ahead. And we had prints that we had worked on with Donald. And we ended up launching this brand September 9th, just of this year of 2021.
Of 2021. Okay. So are you currently in retail stores right now?
No, we're direct to consumer. You know, I'm not sure. We've had some calls from a few retailers that want to put us in, but direct to consumer right now, I think is the way.
I think that's the way to go for every person pretty much. Like, as we know, the retail landscape is changing so much.
Yeah.
So then how are you actually reaching your customer? Like, how are you going? I mean, I know it's D2C, but is it through ads? Like, or
that's like what also the thing, the difference is even for me learning now is yes, you know, GLAMGLOW had a big social media or has a big social media presence and has done all this stuff. But when we started GLAMGLOW, there was no real social media. You didn't have to advertise you know, it was a different landscape.
A different animal.
Yeah, totally.
The algorithm was different as we know.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So yes. So now we have, you know, a marketing team that we're working with. We're doing some, you know, influencer press seedings. We're doing some advertising, social media. We just sort of started. So we're kind of testing and learning and seeing, you know, what's working for us and figuring it out. But yeah, that you have to just kind of advertise.
Exactly. Well, I know. Well,
TikToks.
Yeah, exactly. Well, TikTok is still one of the social media platforms where you could still make a difference, right? So without having to pay to play, because everything is pay to play now, as we know.
Right.
So, but I'm sure actually to your point about influencer seeding in that particular market, and given that you're still in it, you can have influence over it, you know, because I'm sure there's so many people that you know that that would love to have your products. So what actual products are they?
So we have a small collection. We have two different onesies. We have a basic onesie that boy, unisex, girl, and then our second onesie, and all of our products are named after a family member. So, so our girl onesie is called the Sienna, which is after our daughter, and it has, of course, the ruffles on the butt. It has this cute ruffle shoulder detail. You know, we have like mittens and footies that fold over, so they're convertible.
Perfect.
And then
like when you first have a baby.
Yeah, you don't always want their hands and feet covered, and then you do. And one thing I became frustrated with as well was with our daughter is a little bit taller. So for example, if she was wearing a 12 to 18 months, which fits her, because the footies stop her, this would like pull down like this.
So then suddenly it's like a V-neck.
Right, exactly. So we kind of fixed that a little bit, but yeah, so we have two styles of onesies. We have an amazing towel that's extra large, because that was another thing that we were really frustrated about, is you buy these adorable towels and they're for infants, but then they last, you know, a month or 2 months, and then they grow out of it and you can't wrap them. So ours are quite big. They go from infant to like a 6 or 7 year old could use it. You know, and everything is made here. We make the fabric, you know, out of bamboo, which is sustainable.
Very soft too.
Yeah, very soft and stretchy. Our terry on our towel. So we have bamboo on the outside, terry on the inside. The terry is made of recycled poly and also organic cotton. You know, we try to be as eco-friendly as possible. We definitely want, you know, as our girls are going to inherit our planet one day.
Exactly.
So we want to do as much as we can to help the environment. I mean, we're not 100% an organic
Brand,
but we do as much as we can. We have swaddle, we have these amazing bows and headbands.
oh,
I didn't do bows with my first, and this one I'm all about the bows. So
you're like, I got to get my bows in. I don't know when this is going to happen again, or maybe
give me a giant, it's never happening again.
Exactly. You're like, here's the guarantee.
Yeah. I tell my husband, I go, I'm 47 now. The shop is closed.
Well, I love the fact that that you decided to go back for more. So, I mean, that actually also speaks to about who you are, because I mean, I know people thought I was crazy when I delivered my third at 42. So, good for you is all I'm going to say.
Although now I calculate and I'm like, oh, you know, when she's 8, I'll be 50, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you know what? It's a number. It's fine.
It doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter. Just remember that being around her and all her young friends and all her young friends' moms, will keep you young.
Exactly. I have to keep up.
So what I want to hear more about is, what do you think were the parts about you, the characteristics of you that like has just consistently chose like to innovate?
You know, I think I'm definitely stronger than I ever thought I was or could be. I think I'm very determined. So, you know, I like to face a challenge. And these are all things actually that have come about, you know, really, you know, if my younger self was completely different than what I've kind of morphed into, which was always inside of me. But, you know, I definitely have the determination, and I'm afraid. I think everybody is afraid to some extent. But I realize that without risk, there isn't reward, and failure is okay. So if you try something and you don't succeed, it's okay.
So tell me a little bit more about those characteristics that you were talking about that help you be successful every day.
Yeah, I think, you know, just staying motivated, and also staying motivated through challenge, you know, and challenges, because, you know, in your life, there's always obstacles, whether it's, you know, something with your kids or in business, you know, but I think being able to face those challenges head on and making them a positive instead of a negative, I think for me is really, you know, one of the things, because I think we talked about it briefly before we came on, was that you like, how do I want to say it? Right now I lost my train of thought.
It's okay. You're always going to be hit with some sort of obstacle. So it's a matter of
it happens to the best of us.
You know, we've had a lot go on between now and then with the power outage and all.
Right. The power outage. So like threw us off, and now we're all like all over the place. But you know, but again, I think my point was, you know, I founded a successful company. I sold it. I had an amazing exit. That doesn't mean that I'm not afraid or, you know, just scared of what could happen with this new business, that you're not guaranteed success. You have to work just as hard, if not that much harder. I think so. Really staying motivated and facing those challenges, and just knowing that, you know, you can overcome. But if you set your mind to something, then you have to go full steam and see what happens. And you hope that everything turns out the way that you envision it. But as long as you try your best, you know, you just see what happens.
Yeah. So tell me something. Yeah, I love it, by the way. So tell me something. You had a co-founder, and you seem to, in part, be super supported by your husband for Gracyn Sky, right? Yeah.
Yes,
and so my question for you is, tell me about having a co-founder, because I think a lot of times people struggle with Do I want somebody to work with on this business? And I think, for example, even myself, who's a sole proprietor, I love having people to collaborate with. And it's not quite the same as like when we worked in a big work environment to get our stuff done. So tell me what your thoughts are on that, because it's nice to have one sometimes, right?
It is, and to be honest, so my GLAMGLOW co-founder was my husband,
Mhm.
now ex-husband, not because of the business, but I think one of the things, and I will give him credit, is that he was a little bit, and I said it earlier, he was a little bit more entrepreneurial. That was more of his thing growing up. He wasn't a typical employee. I was not, and so really I think if it wasn't that we kind of happened to be at this party together. We both kind of, started down this route of kind of creating something, but then it was really him like, okay, we could do this. And I think maybe if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be here today, because I might not have had, that in me, or just that part of my brain to say, you know what, you can do it.
Keep going.
Keep going.
Yeah.
And, as far as like working together, I think, a lot of people wonder how, couples working together, how that works out. And I think it depends obviously on the couples, but we found our way, and, we found what each one of us, like what lane we were in, and it overcrossed. Well, my role more overcrossed with him, because he wasn't so much the business side. He was very much the creative. So designed all of our packaging, like literally from scissors and tape and all of that stuff. So very creative. Whereas I became more of the business side and,
Analytical.
that. Exactly. But then I also found my way creatively as well. So I overlapped a little bit, but we did have our particular roles, and it worked out very well. And to your point, you at least have somebody to like share with, and all of the positives as well as all of the negatives that go along with, being an entrepreneur. And being an entrepreneur can be very lonely, because not a lot of people can really understand what you're going through if they haven't experienced something like this. So it's a different world. It's great, it's amazing, and there's the positives, but there is the lonely side of it, where it's like, I don't know, like especially starting GLAMGLOW, there weren't all these indie brands that there are now, and these brands where everybody's like working together and helping each other. We were kind of left alone. So at least we had each other. And then Gracyn Sky, the new business, we're also doing, my new husband, Luciano, and we are also doing that together. And he's really taken on the role of the operational side of it. We're setting up our own warehouse, whereas right now we're using a third-party warehouse, but we just bought a building so we can bring it all in-house. So we have more control of what, how the boxes,
How it gets done. Yeah, exactly.
how it gets done, what you put in it, little
Quality
gifts,
control.
quality control, right? Exactly. And I've taken the lead again on the business side, but also the creative side, and really designing the apparel pieces, the prints, and all of that. But I think for me, I enjoy it. I think it's once you find your way, and what each one's role is.
What is the greatest obstacle in starting a business?
For me personally,
And maintaining it, by the way, what's the greatest obstacle in starting and maintaining?
yeah. I mean, I think for starting is making sure you have everything lined up. So, going in from beauty to apparel, specifically children's, infant and children's, it's a little bit scarier, but really understanding the industry that you're in, taking a deep dive into the rules and regulations, understanding terminologies. And it's okay not to completely get it and to ask questions. I mean, I've been in, meetings that are, factory that's the cutting and sewing house. And I'm like, what does that mean? I don't what, because there's new terminology. Can you explain that to me? But, making it a priority to really understanding, and even like now we talk about trim, and I'm like, what does the trim mean? Okay, that has to do with the zipper or anything like extra. I didn't know any of that. And it's okay. It's okay to ask questions. So I think just making sure you have a deep dive and really understanding the world that you're going into, that's super important. And just to maintain it, you have to be on top of the quality control. You have to be okay with saying, this is not good enough. I'm moving my business, like
using your voice and asking for what you want,
right. Exactly. And, there's already been a few challenges and things. It's picking up the phone and saying, you know what, this is not what we agreed on.
What's the phone?
Yeah. Right. And,
exactly.
And just, and being okay with making a stance, because at the end of the day, this is your brand, it's your business, it's your money, your livelihood, and it's your reputation. So, I think that is really important to maintain.
When you were starting these brands, did you say, because you've self-funded, and like you said, with GLAMGLOW, you had zero debt, which is so super impressive. So my question is like, did you say, I'm going to set 20 grand aside or whatever it is, or 50, 60, 100 grand aside to start this business, or I'm going to break even though people say that it's 3 years, I'm going to do it within a year. I'm going to figure out how to do this.
So with GLAMGLOW, no, we didn't know what we were doing, cashed out my 401k. We lived off of that, and it just kind of started happening. We had no plans. We had no business plan. We had no spreadsheets. We just
I love it. True entrepreneurship.
Very, yes, very. And honestly, with this new brand too, I kind of had an idea in my mind, like, okay, this is the amount that we're going to put in the business. But to be perfectly honest, it's I didn't know about this business. So I didn't know all of these extra little costs that might come into play that I didn't understand, the manufacturing and various other things. So kind of we're over what we initially had thought about. And, I haven't thought about when we're going to break even. I just want us to do really, really well. So we're just sort of testing and learning, to be honest. I'm not putting that kind of pressure
on yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And sort of right now I'm kind of looking at numbers, because this is a different, beast than before. And sort of okay, I'm going to give it this amount of time. By this amount of time, I at least need to be we should need to be breaking even, or paying us back a little bit of what we're, putting
what
out.
Your investment is.
What your investment is. Yeah. But I think, that's just the way I personally work. I don't think it's necessarily right or wrong. I like to put whatever in, and whatever it's going to cost. If we have to spend an extra, 10,000 here or 5,000 here, and it's going to return, or potentially return this, then let's try it.
Well, it's a little bit like planning a wedding, right? Or planning any event, right? If you want it a certain way, the way that you see it looking, it always suddenly goes over, or remodeling your house for that matter.
And I know right. And I know it's not easy for someone starting out that might not have,
the capital,
maybe the capital that, I'm grateful to have. Doesn't mean that I want to lose money by any means, but I kind of think about it as this is kind of an investment, like other things that I've invested in. And instead of giving the money to these other investment places, which I've done, I'm making this investment in us, and it's a longer term return, but I'm waiting, the return hopefully will happen, but it's I'm investing in
when the return will happen.
Yes. And I'm investing in us, and I'm definitely very positive. I mean, everybody that has seen the brand, that has seen everything, is super excited. So, we're excited. It's just,
well, I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see these designs. I mean, I think it seems really cool to be taking, first of all, just the history that you have with your creative director, and what he seems to be bringing to life seems amazing. So if only I had another baby, but I'll be giving many gifts in the next 10 years.
And that's right. And that's one of the other things too, with regard to the artists, is we're looking for artists, and we already have 2 new artists that we're going to be working with, and we don't want necessarily them to be famous artists or well-known artists. We would like even just the mom at home that is an amazing, and she's an amazing artist, or he's an amazing artist, and just has a passion for art, but hasn't really done much with it. So, it's that's really that's even more so what the brand was about. Donald was an easy for us, to get the brand off, because he's amazing and I adore him. But really it's just giving any artist, because art is such so I can't do it. I can't draw a stick figure, right? So I'm so impressed by people that just have this amazing artistic brain that can draw and paint and sculpt and whatever,
Yeah, this vision to create and bring things to life.
Mm-hmm.
So I know we have limited time, so I just want to go ahead and ask you a couple other questions. The first question is, what's your dream? What is the major dream out there that if you could do anything, you would do?
Well, you know what? I definitely want to continue to be entrepreneur, to, have businesses that, so our daughters can look up to me as a successful role model to see that they can do it. They don't have to start a business, but whatever they do in their life. But the goal at the end of the day would really just to enjoy the time with my family. Still work hard, but I really want to enjoy these moments. In life that you can't ever get back, as the kids are growing and doing new things. For me, that's really, really important. But
And I think that's what COVID taught us,
yeah, yeah,
which could quite possibly be going back to what you talked about earlier is sort of, you weren't really ready to like do everything all at once in this venture. And, like now you're rolling it out. Obviously there were some obstacles with COVID and not being able to get to manufacturers, but what a blessing.
yeah. I mean, and I think like one of the things I did learn I learned a lot from GLAMGLOW, but one of the things I learned was, it was a 22-hour, literally, and no joke, day job for me, 7 days a week. I mean, I was, and so I missed out on a lot of the important moments with my older daughter just because, things were happening so fast, so furious. And, it was just, I was all
You had to
in.
dedicate your time.
Had to dedicate the time, which was amazing. And it got me to where I am today and super grateful. But now having the second baby, I am not doing emails like I was at 9, 10, 11, 12, 2 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah.
I have that quality time. I found a work-life balance that works for us. And part of the reason too is my husband, Luciano, that's very important to him. Family is very important to him. And he's like, look, it's okay. If you respond to someone tomorrow or, we don't approve a sample tonight, you do it tomorrow, it's not going to hurt anybody. We need this time with Sienna, and
I love that.
Yeah. So
I love the fact that it's coming from your husband and that he's helping support what the words that come up for me are setting healthy boundaries, like for family time and for yourself,
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's really important because that's a lot of, what the work-life balance is challenging, whether you're an entrepreneur or just
or not. Yeah.
Or not, it's hard.
And frankly, finding you time because being a mom and working is really hard. So,
yeah,
finding that space where you can create laughter and fun with your friends and enjoy life. That's what we're here for,
Yeah.
So my last question for you is around values. So I'm a really big values person and I really feel about living in alignment with your values brings more fulfillment and joy into our lives. So what are your top 5 core values?
Ooh,
If we have to play my game later, we can, so you could get clear.
yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh, I think I need some tequila for this one.
Oh, we could do it with tequila. I'm all in.
I think definitely empathy. I think that's super important. I think giving back in whatever way is really,
service, like serving
service.
others. Mm-hmm.
Right, exactly. Whatever that is, whether it's, I don't know, packing lunches for homeless or donating or, whatever it is. I think that's super important. Let's see, what other values? Oh my gosh, I should.
I'm going to say curiosity is one of your values. Because
Curiosity.
every single thing that you have done has required you to continuously get curious and not give up.
Yeah, definitely.
So there's determination.
Determination. Yep, that's right. Determination. And I think definitely, I don't know if strength is.
Yeah,
is that a
value? Definitely a value. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think we need to, I'm looking at my friend's house. She happens to have my values right here. We're going to have to play this game together.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. But I definitely think strength and, that's just, being strong when, things aren't good, when things are great, and all of that. I think strength has been really important for me, especially coming out of a divorce and new relationship, all that stuff. I think you find strength in different ways.
I don't think that with everything that you've created and beyond and being a mother, and I mean, frankly, going through divorce is not an easy situation, even when it's amicable. So, I mean, I think like realistically, it requires strength It's the essence of who you are. Like you come off, you're very kind, but you're also super strong. And
Right.
those are the things that come through for me and your essence. So
Yeah. I mean, I always tell people, don't take my niceness for weakness.
exactly, exactly. So true.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. And I think just being, you know, an open and honest person
yes.
um, is very important.
Yeah, and transparency, like, just being clear with people. So I love that.
Mhm.
So I want to thank you for your time today. You've been
Course.
nothing but generous with your time, and I am just grateful for this time together. And I feel like I connected not only with your messaging around why you started Glam Glow and why you're, getting into the next venture with Gracyn Sky. And I feel like I, met a new friend. So I'm very grateful for this time together. And I'd love for you to share with people anything that you want them to know about Gracyn Sky and where to shop it and where to find you if they have any questions for you for future.
Sure. I mean, my Instagram is at GLAMSHANN, GLAMSHANN. Gracyn Sky, one thing I didn't say, so the brand is actually named after both of our daughters. So Sienna Gracyn is the baby and London Sky is my older. And Gracyn Sky, Gracyn is spelled GRACYN and then SKY. And yeah, feel free to contact me, questions. I'm always happy to give any advice to anybody that's looking for entrepreneurial advice or just anything. Well,
I'm so grateful because
advice,
what'll be awesome is when you come to some of the events that we do at Empower, that I just know you'll be a wealth of information and sharing to others. So I appreciate that.
I'm happy to come, and I want to play that game.
Yes, I'll play it with you. I would love to. It's actually been one of the most transformational and powerful things that I do with people when I coach them. I think you'd love it. So,
Nice.
okay. Have a
Thank
great
you so
day.
much.
Thank you
Okay,
so much.